With a good eye, people won't be the only things you'll find courting in the romantic waters of Lembeh Strait. The sea moth suitor puts on quite a display in his attempt to romance his potential mate. But the courting dance of the damselfish looks more like a game of tag while they quiver in their own unique manner. Once the eggs are laid, the damsel will guard them very defensively while keeping them aerated. Soon after hatching, the damsel fry will migrate to a protected area in which to grow. The male squid inseminates a female by inserting a specialized organ and releasing its sperm directly to her eggs while embracing her. Once the coast seems to be clear, the female will separate in order to find a place to lay her eggs. She might lay them in the open sand, or she may choose to deposit them in a protected nook of the reef. While she is doing that, the male will put on an elaborate exhibition to attract attention to him. This is not necessarily to protect the female while the eggs are laid, but it does help to preserve his genes in the gene pool. Of course, the male will continue his posturing until he's sure the eggs have been deposited successfully. Usually, each white capsule will have 6 to 8 eggs inside. Mandarin fish will predictably choose the early evening for their endearing mating process, where they release sperm and eggs into the water column depending only on chance for successful fertilization. Convict surgeonfish leave their milt at the surface simultaneously as an entire school. At certain times of the year, even sponges broadcast their reproductive spores into the water column where these spores will drift in the current. Tailing is a behavior of nudibranchs that's thought to be a precursor to mating. After mating, nudibranchs lay their eggs in a beautiful spiral and then leave them to develop on their own. In some species of mantis shrimp, both males and females will tend to their eggs, but carrying their eggs may still not deter them from hunting on the reef for prey. The eggs of an anemone shrimp are also quite apparent inside her abdomen. The pregnancy of a pygmy seahorse can be very evident, as can be the pregnancy of a small crinoid shrimp, as well as the stingray. Even the tiny skeleton shrimp will have an obvious bulge in its belly. With proper environmental cues, the smaller male ornate ghost pipefish change to females, grow larger, and develop a brood pouch that can hold up to 300 eggs. Similar to the common jawfish, the Bengai cardinalfish will incubate its eggs in its mouth. If you find one that constantly opens and closes its mouth, try to look inside to see if there's a clutch of reddish eggs being aerated. It may take a little patience, but with some perseverance, it may be greatly rewarding, especially if the eggs have already hatched. While divers gear up, a great dive staff will be carrying your equipment to the boat. This is ensured by Ali, who is the dive supervisor and has been enthusiastically guiding divers in Lembeh since the early 1990s. After a quick and complete dive briefing, it's only a short walk to the boats where all gear is already on board. Divers gear up immediately since most dive sites are only 5 to 10 minutes away. Visibility can vary, but as most divers know, when muck diving, they'll be concentrating on getting close to their subjects, and the overall visibility won't matter. The dive guides are constantly finding new subjects to be amazed with. So photographers only need to concern themselves with their cameras and models. The variety of marine creatures living in Lembeh Strait is seemingly endless. Indra is a senior dive master. Since he was trained by Ali, he has an exceptional eye to find even the most obscure but exciting creatures and their interesting habitats. Odd creatures abound in Lembeh Strait, as do various marine behaviors, like the symbiotic relationships between shrimp gobies and the mostly blind alphid shrimp they live with. Cassowary dive masters look beyond the camouflage to locate creatures like the robust ghost pipefish or the decorator crab that purposely adorns itself to be inconspicuous in its environment. Sometimes it's the marine creatures themselves that seek interaction with divers. Every dive in Lembeh Strait will astound divers with peculiar but beautiful creatures, including the popular Rhinopeus with its absurd face. Many creatures seem to enjoy being photographed, and some even put on elegant displays, like this wonderpuss. It's always fascinating to watch creatures get around on the seafloor in their own ways, like this small urchin crab hitching a ride on the back of a sea urchin. You'll find numerous species of lionfish in Lembeh Strait. The same is true of the cuttlefish, starting off with the spectacular flamboyant cuttlefish that can be found emanating all the colors of the rainbow. This color changing seems to far surpass those of the common reef cuttlefish. When diving with cassowary, if you can't identify critters like this juvenile club cuttlefish, all you have to do is ask Ali, and he'll show you. Nudibranch literally means naked gills, which can usually be seen on their backs, near the rear of most nudibranchs. Some species have their feathery gills all along their bodies. Many nudibranchs are very brightly colored. Nudibranchs range in size from 2 to 6 centimeters, or about 1 to 2 inches, with some species being larger. They have horn-like structures near their heads called rhinophores, which are sensory structures similar to our nose. Most nudibranchs crawl using muscular contractions of their fleshy foot, or by using hair-like cilia on the bottom of their foot. For protection, some nudibranchs secrete acids that most fish find distasteful. Others secrete powerful toxins that could kill a fish or crab if placed in a bucket together. Many nudibranchs are hermaphroditic, which means they have both male and female sex organs. Besides the gills and rhinophores, the Dendrodorus nudibranch has branching processes around the front of its head called oral tentacles, which are tactile organs. The Lembeh nudibranch is one of the larger ones that grows up to 15 centimeters or about 6 inches. Sometimes it will also have symbiotic emperor shrimp living on it. Depending on the species, their lifespans can range from 6 weeks up to a year. There are various ways that marine creatures feed. Some, such as the sea snail, will use a long proboscis to find their food. The cuttlefish also uses its proboscis. Even though shrimp gobies live symbiotically with alphid shrimp, they feed on much smaller mysid and brine shrimp. Shrimp gobies will gulp mouthfuls of sand and sift it through their gills, retaining any food particles. This is a common form of feeding for many different kinds of fish. Needlefish dart through schools of silversides for their meals. Other critters look for tiny crustaceans floating by in the water. This boxfish uses its strong jaws to break through the shell of a sea urchin. Some fish will be found patiently stalking their prey until just the right moment. The orangutan crab will eat bits of food that catch on its hairs. The same is true of many types of small sea spiders. The stargazer stalks its prey by burying itself in the sand and sometimes even extending its lure, which may look appetizing to some fish. Tankoko Nature Reserve is one of the more popular day tours, where during your hike you may spot beautiful birds of prey in the trees, or even a poisonous green viper down near the ground. But the most popular reasons to visit there are to see the world's smallest primate, the tarsier spectrum, and the black-crested macaque, which is indigenous to North Sulawesi. Another day trip might start with a drive to Tamahan and is well worth the trip to see the open market there. The market is jam-packed with vendors selling fruits and vegetables and many other important needs for the Indonesian household. Other villages to visit might include the ceramic village. Most everyone in any given village is part of an extended family there, and they all will concentrate on a single craft, whether it's pottery, growing flowers, or even furniture making. This craft of any of the villages is passed down from generation to generation. Most of the electricity for North Sulawesi is generated at Lake Tondano, which is also a great place to have a lunch of native Indonesian fare. After lunch, a hike up to the top of Mahawu volcano will result in some breathtaking views. Not far from there is the wooden house village where model homes can be studied and bought. When originally built, nails are left out far enough so that after the purchase, the buildings are disassembled, transported, and rebuilt on the buyer's property. There are many kinds of tiny shrimp to be found in Lembeh Strait, especially when it comes to the various types of anemone shrimp in their host anemones. Of course, the soft coral shrimp are also abundant. And the soft coral crabs can be hilarious with their silly antics. Porcelain crabs can be found on almost every anemone. And it's not hard to recognize decorator hermit crabs or the plain ones either. The xeno crab is only a couple of centimeters long. If you find a pebble crab out on the reef, it probably won't stay out for long. The shameless crab gets its name for the way it seems to hide its face in shame. It also prefers to remain buried for its camouflage and protection. The swimming crab is quite large and may even challenge divers instead of swimming away. Juvenile lobsters are quite colorful. Unfortunately, this one got swallowed up as soon as the camera was turned off, and therefore it won't grow into an adult. Lembeh Strait is host to many anemones and different species of anemone fish that divers can photograph and even study closely. If you like frogfish, they come in many different sizes and colors in Lembeh. As you've already seen, the marine life will use anything on the seafloor to call their home. The blue ribbon eel can be found in all of its developmental stages, including the juvenile. Did I forget to mention the mimic octopus? This octopus can make itself look like a flounder, a mantis shrimp, or even a scorpionfish. It's common knowledge that an octopus can and will use anything available for its home and protection. If the octopus is away from its home, this can become a different scenario for the octopus. If it needs to hide while on a sandy seafloor, just what will it choose to hide in? An octopus is usually very smart and intuitive. If the only thing to hide in or under is a plastic bag, then that's what it will have to be. On the other hand, if it becomes comfortable and no longer feels threatened, it may choose to remain out in plain sight. And if it feels very comfortable, it may allow and enjoy a petting between its eyes. The coconut octopus takes being smart to a whole new level. It carries its home with it wherever it goes. Its home might be a couple of shells like this one has, or even two coconut halves in which it can hide, hence its name, coconut octopus. The fact that the coconut octopus actually gathers and prepares the shells or coconut halves, and then even carries that protection with it, gives scientists enough evidence to call this the use of a tool. This tool use has never been recorded in invertebrates before. This coconut octopus not only has its two shells, but also uses a beer bottle. When it feels the need to leave, it just takes its shells and beer and goes home.